Good morning, everybody. It's the CC and JT Amateur Hour where production values go to die, and we're doing the cutesy grandparent thing. We're best friends.
Because it's cold.
It's cold. What'd you say when you woke up this morning? What the temperature say?
It was 38 degrees when I woke up at 6 a.m. this morning.
And it is Sunday, August 25th.
I'm not used to this. I know
it is October 25th.
This is not helping me. Yeah. I'm trying to prevent myself from decorating for Halloween too early.
But
it's feeling very autumnal.
So it is cold this morning. Man, is it cold this morning.
Cold.
So we're doing the cutesy grandparent thing where we're all dressed alike. We're not wearing any pants, but I made you look.
I was going to say that we're actually kind of wearing night clothes because it's too cold to change right now.
Oh my gosh, it's cold in the house. We'll turn the furnace on probably next month sometimes, but it's for those of you who don't know, we broadcast podcast from beautiful Carson City, Nevada, which is the capital city of Nevada for those that are interested. And we live in the Sierra Highlands. If we look over our shoulder here, we look to the west, we can see the mountains that lead up to the Sierra Nevadas.
It's the Carson Range of the Sierra Nevada mountains. Yeah. So we are about 30 minutes from Lake Tahoe. Lake Tahoe is right over here to our west.
Right.
Absolutely glorious up there. And it snowed up there yesterday.
Yeah, we're at 4,400 feet. And all the news reports around us, Donner Pass, the famous Donner Pass, was getting quite a bit of snow yesterday. So anyway, welcome to August 25th.
I hope this is not a sign of the winter to come. I hope this is just kind of a random thing. I will say, though, that the weather yesterday was perfect for me to go out and tackle some of our jungle. So I got a lot of activity after doing what our podcast will be discussing today. So it was kind of nice to get outside in the fresh air, cool air.
Good sleeping weather.
Very good sleeping weather. We're all bundled up.
Well, okay, so enough about us, except this whole
podcast.
This whole thing is all about us. Okay, we got a packed agenda today, and actually I have it up on the screen if you're wondering what I'm looking at. And we're going to go ahead and go flying through this. And fortunately for America and all ships at sea, she'll be doing most of the talking today, which is awesome. But very quickly, we do want to talk about Serving Salvation, which is going on sale this Wednesday, the 4th. And the 4th?
A week from Wednesday. A week from Wednesday. We're going into the last week of August.
Okay.
We have one more week until September. Next Sunday will be September 1st.
Well, never mind.
But Serving Salvation is available for pre-sale.
Great.
We will possibly podcast about Serving Salvation next Sunday.
Yeah.
Maybe that
probably
our whole podcast may be dedicated to that particular book series. But for the moment, just to make sure we're clear,
a week from Wednesday,
because we are going in. Even though it feels like October 25th, we're actually going into September.
It's a week. Okay, so it's a week, but this obviously a paperback exists.
Yes.
But for some reason, probably because we're not best-selling authors, it does not appear on the website yet for available free sale. But it will appear on September 4th. And looking at this, and again, we have to give a shout out to Atticus. This, it's wonderful.
Oh, yes.
It's just wonderful.
I tried doing the formatting for publication in Word, and it was an absolute nightmare.
Yeah.
Atticus has made it so much easier. That's really upped our game in being able to provide paperback copies. So it's been exciting for us. And I've also been watching, our youngest daughter did a Kickstarter because she's doing a hardback version of kind of an anniversary edition of her first big novel. And I'm looking at the hardback edition and I'm kind of thinking, But we will actually be playing with Atticus a little bit more because our Bat book, what we're calling the Bat book, about the big ass trip, is about to go to a beta reader. And once we get through the beta and the editing and everything, we'll be doing layout with photographs.
Yep.
And I have some graphics also. So that will be even more of a challenge. I'll be playing a lot with Atticus and the functionality of formatting in different ways.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. And we're looking forward to it because it's going to have all sorts of pictures that we've taken and some diagrams that Cece has, worked on months ago, and we'll be getting back to. But she's been busy, and we're going to get into that here in a minute. But very quickly, we're going to just do our weekly progress report, let y'all know what's going on our current events, and for life events.
It's cold.
It's cold.
No, I think we both had a pretty good week. I think overall.
Production, we did, got a few thousand words done.
JT did mention some sleeping issues, which I think part of it may be due to the fact that somebody's brain is working on plot holes in the story.
I think that's the same, and I'm not trying to elevate or lower anything here. Just observation. I think anybody that's involved in a cell phone business.
Yes.
The cell phone business has bought real estate in your brain, and it's going to be there all the time. And I think with writing, it's the same thing.
And that's a life event. What did we buy into this week?
Oh, that's right, a life event.
There you go.
Hey, Ballers!
The Oakland Ballers.
Oakland Ballers, baby! Oakland Ballers is a semi-pro or a pro team out of Oakland, obviously, and they went public, so to speak, and so fans were given the opportunity to buy shares. So we bought shares, and so we are fan owners of the Oakland Ballers. So pro baseball stays in Oakland as it should, and we are proud fan owners. And they've been, since we bought up, they've been doing pretty good. On the day on the day that the sale went open, and they've raised hundreds of thousands of dollars. So while our purchase is literally a drip in that ocean, it still counts. On the day that we made the purchase, along with hundreds, if not thousands, of others, the Ballers beat some poor team 31-3. It's like, oh my God,
we're off to a good start.
30, and I don't think they've lost since. So ownership is placed.
No, they did.
What?
Remember, they lost that one night, and you were talking about making changes.
Oh, that's right.
The team.
Yeah, ownership was not happy that night. But they've won since then. So ownership is not going to make changes at this time, like we have any say in the matter.
Somebody is really enjoying this, and I'm enjoying watching the process.
Yeah,
but I will say, just for some background, in case people don't follow baseball, the Oakland Athletics have been a long-term Oakland team. They play out of the Oakland Coliseum. Yeah. I'm guessing this is their last season at the Coliseum. They were talking about moving to Las Vegas.
But by way of Sacramento.
They're going to be sharing a minor league park, which it's actually a beautiful park. We've been there.
Oh, yeah.
It's along the river there, the Sacramento River. Yeah. And it's a very nice park, but it's really not a major league park. So next season, I guess, the A's and the River Cats will be switching time up at the what is it, Sutter Health?
Rayleigh Field.
No, I think it's Sutter Health Field. Or did it go the other way?
Oh, I don't even remember
anymore. It's the River Cats ballpark in Sacramento. So if you're ever in Sacramento, it's really close to Old Town.
Yeah,
it's a great place.
Right next to the bridge.
Yeah.
And I don't even have to say
the Tower
name.
Bridge.
We don't even have to say the name of the bridge. Just say the bridge, and you know what we're talking about.
It's a beautiful area. It's a great place. So if you are a major league, fan, and obviously, if you are a fan, then you already know all this. But after the Oakland Raiders decided to leave Oakland and go to Las Vegas, the Oakland Athletics, the baseball team versus the football team, decided to kind of follow suit. We still are not 100% sure that the A's are going to end up in Vegas because even though they're talking about it, things can still happen. But for next season, they should be playing in Sacramento, in which case the Oakland Ballers, our team, may be moving into the Oakland Coliseum potentially.
Yeah, that would be awesome. And just a very quick prediction, because, this is Nevada and we are built on making bad predictions. I wouldn't be surprised if the athletics team stays in Sacramento and, not sharing and builds a park
Building
there.
A park. Yeah.
Build a parks there. But because I have serious doubts whether. Okay.
Las Vegas has a lot going on already because there's already NFL and there is also hockey. And HL, so the Golden Knights, which you wouldn't think.
We can't forget our aces, Las Vegas Aces, who are the reigning WNBA champions.
Women's basketball, woo!
Yes.
So Las Vegas, plus all the pro fights.
Yeah.
I mean, Las Vegas has a lot going on already, and summer in Vegas, for anybody who's been there, is absolutely miserable. So it would have to probably be an enclosed stadium.
Oh, yeah.
There is so much involved. So that's why we say we're not 100% sure they'll actually end up down there.
I don't think it will. But anyway, so this podcast is sponsored by the Nevada Department of...
Nevada Commission on Tourism.
Nevada Division
I used to work there and I can't remember. Nevada Commission on Tourism.
Yeah.
Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Authority.
Yeah. Okay, so anyway, we are proud Oakland Ballers.
Yes.
We're proud Oakland Ballers. Man, I've got to get some headgear. Okay. Got to get some headgear. Okay. Not that anything's wrong with the Air Force. Okay, so we're gonna probably bust our usual 30-minute thing. What?
Well, also with our weekly update, you should talk a little bit about your works in progress because they are related to Serving Salvation.
Okay, so Serving Salvation is 3 books, and the 3 books are already written. So there's well over 200,000 words total, and and then somebody gave me an idea, and I started working on the prequels. So this book, I'm not trying not to give too much away, but this book is thousands of years after the ship left Earth. The prequels are the events leading up to the ship leaving Earth. So there's going to be some commonalities, but the difference between the series, which is well over 200,000 words total, 3 books, is the novellas or novellas. What did we decide?
Novellas.
Novellas is going to end up probably around 100,000 words, and it's going to be the novellas are probably going to be in the 30 to 40K range each, unless something happens in my brain, and they turn into books, and that's always possible. But I hope not, because I want to move on to other works. And for example, the e-copy for this book is going to be available at $4.99 when it's a week from Wednesday. And I think this is $12.99, which is a really good deal. And I think the novellas will probably be going for $2.99, but don't hold me to that yet. So, but they're coming along, and I've passed the 60,000 word point on the total. One is done. The third one is 2/3 done, and the middle one, I'm doing the last one because I need to fill in events in the middle one. Okay.
Which is what's keeping him awake at night.
Okay. So it's an interesting little universe, and it's very person-oriented versus with the science fiction elements versus a science fiction book with person elements following up. And we've talked about that in the past. We'll talk about that in the future, but that's not the purpose of this podcast.
It's character-driven.
It's character-driven. So either way, I think they're interesting because, I wrote them. So, but I hope that you find some interest. So from social media that drove you to this YouTube, to this podcast, to our website, you saw that we named this Writer School. So Writer School. So why did we do this Writer School? Because we as small business owners, and I mentioned this before, we are small business owners. Every independent writer is a small business owner, same as the restaurant your diner on the corner, same as bookstore, anything like that, where we have to worry about products, we have to worry about taxes, we have to worry about marketing and things like that. And one thing that Cece, as the CEO and Chief Marketing Officer, learned almost immediately is that when she retired in March, is that we don't know what we don't know.
And there's a lot of that.
There's a lot we don't know. And the biggest thing we don't know is marketing. And we've gone to writers' events, and we find that that's common for independent writers.
Yes, it's a big issue because, as we've also mentioned previously, there are so many options available to readers in the, wherever you're purchasing your books, the Amazon being one of the big ones. But whenever you go into even a bookstore, sometimes if you don't have a particular author in mind, you go into the bookstore and you're just kind of wandering the shelves and you just aren't quite sure what to pick. And a lot of the marketing is helping to drive people. Basically, for the first thing that they need to know you exist. They need to know you've written a book. And doing that as an independent author is very difficult because there are so many different social media platforms. There are so many, you can go through traditional media like newspaper, television, things like that. And the various options for marketing are so overwhelming. You have to really determine what works best for you.
Yeah, and so Cece, well, I went to one, but Cece you're going to talk about two of them?
Yes.
You're going to talk about two of them. Going to talk about two of these summits
Yes.
that you attended to talk about the writing gig, the independent writing gig. And I'm always a little nervous about these things because one thing that they illustrate really well, again, is first of all, we don't know what we don't know.
Right.
But the second thing, and I keep using this metaphor over and over again because it's so famous, is it seems like the rock that we're pushing uphill gets bigger and bigger every time we go to one of these summits.
Right.
And so it's easy to get discouraged. And so I'm going to go right straight to the end and say, don't get discouraged.
No,
and then,
that's important.
And let's CC fill in the rest. So why don't you go ahead and take it away, and I'll shut up.
So this kind of starting with our weekly progress report, my progress for the past 2 weeks has been attending 2 separate summits back to back. These summits were both writing oriented. I did a digital marketing, or actually 2 digital marketing certificates about a month or so ago on HubSpot, which were generic digital marketing for a variety of different businesses. So that was very overwhelming, and I didn't get a lot that really related to what we're trying to do. They were trying more along the lines of a business. You're selling a lot of different types of products that you may not even have created. The first summit I went to, not this past week, but the week prior to that, was called the Thriving Author Summit. That one was geared toward women authors, or women entrepreneurs, I should say, probably in the 20 to 40 year age range. A lot of them had young families, or they still had teenage kids at home. They had a lot of different life events keeping them hopping all the time. So they were running a business, and their business may have been writing related. They may be doing things like book coaching, editing, providing services like that, book cover design, things like that. But they might not have been specifically just authors. They might have been trying to attract people to their services by providing something that they'd written. So maybe they had put together a guide, a pamphlet, one sheet, something like that, which they put on their website for their business, and that is called a lead magnet. And I'd been hearing a lot about lead magnets, and clarifying that summit did a really good job of clarifying what a lead magnet was and how you draw people to your lead magnet. The second summit that I did last week was a romance author mastery summit, or a romance writer mastery summit. And the reason I chose to go to that one was because it was geared more toward what I'm working on right now, which is a historical romance. And when I first started writing romances in the 1980s, romance was a very different beast. A lot of people were trying to sell their work to Harlequin. Harlequin has a wide variety of different range, from the very chaste romances to the spicier ones, basically. The terminology for romances has changed a lot. They used to say things like clean romance. They're getting away from the term clean because some people feel like it has a negative connotation, and they talk about open door versus closed door. So whatever is going on romantically, do you actually see it because the door is open, or have, you lead up to it and then you close the door and the rest is inferred in the reader's mind. So that was all very technically geared toward the writing process for romance in particular. There were some great different discussions on things like how to drive your characters, how much of the intensity of sensuality versus sexuality do you put into the, do you want it to be open door versus closed door? And there is one of the really big things that I took away from that one is that the romance element is the primary element. So this is going to change my work in progress a little bit, because I was having my characters driven by historical events, whereas I have to have my characters more, reacting. The historical events will still be there and be an important part of the story, because they, what happens around us basically helps shape us as people. And that's got to be true of our characters too. So I need to really focus more on how my characters are reacting to those historic events versus the historic events themselves. So, I learned a lot of very technical, up-to-date information about the romance writing genre. So the two summits were very differently focused. They were both much more helpful to me in framing what we need to do on the marketing front specifically than the digital marketing courses I took. So I learned from the first summit, the Thriving Author Summit, that branding ourselves. We write in a variety of different genres, and we are marketing them, between the two of us, we're marketing them through our business, which we're calling Two More Books. And so we're not appealing to a particular audience in that way. So we had to figure out how to market ourselves as writers and not necessarily what we're writing, even though when we are marketing our books, we need to go down particular avenues for that. It's a different discussion. But we need to brand ourselves as writers. And that was one of the things I learned during that first summit, which was very helpful. And it helped to really fine-tune some of the things I'd already learned in the digital marketing certificate courses. So I am finding that these summits have been very helpful, even though they were both very different. And the first summit, it allowed me to do the sessions in the morning and then work on other things in the afternoon. Whereas the second summit was just very intensive. So it was all day. And JT will probably tell you that by the end of the day, I was wiped out and pretty much done, because I had just taken in so much information. But it was all very good information. And there were a couple of sessions where, as it happens with all of us, sometimes we connect really well with a person and sometimes we don't. And there were a couple of presenters that I did not connect well with. And I did go through a couple of periods where I was feeling very discouraged. And then I had to back off and say, okay, that obviously was not geared toward us. So doing these kind of summits, it's important to keep in mind that you have to pick and choose what is really going to resonate with you. Because as JT mentioned yesterday, on Saturday mornings, we have our business meeting and we discuss what we've done for the week and our plans and how we're doing on our to-do list. And I was very pumped about the things I learned in the summit, and you were happy to see me excited about it. And that's the kind of thing where if you are in a place where you're feeling like you're not making any progress and things are just, static, stagnant, whatever you want to call it, doing something like this can kind of get your mind going. And it helped me to reset my mind on how my romance is going to go. It helped me definitely with the branding idea, because I'd heard the term branding yourself, but I didn't quite understand what it meant to brand yourself. And it was overall a very good experience, even though it was a very intense couple of weeks, because both of us graduated quite a few years ago now, and anybody who's gone to school knows that there are times when you're taking a class and there's just so much information that your mind is whirling. And I kind of felt a little bit like that on Friday evening after finishing the last session. I was like, oh, I have to let it sit and kind of mull it. And there are definitely things, like you said, where we kind of think that we're adding and adding and adding, and that boulder that we're trying to push up the hill gets really heavy. I think in this case, both of these sessions taught me that I don't have to take everything. Even though it sounds good, it may not be good for us. So I'm getting a better sense of who we are, our identity, how to brand us, how we can better market our products as they come out. For example, Serving Salvation, we will need to work toward a particular, what they call a buyer persona. You have to imagine your basically take yourself going into a bookstore. You obviously wrote the story because it resonated with you. So if you were going to a bookstore to look for something like this, what would draw you to it? What kind of cover would you look at? What kind of cover blurb would really draw you in and make you want to read the story? So it's very personal. You have to think about what resonates with you, why you write, because obviously you're writing stories that you love, hopefully. There are people who write because they think it's just a good way to make money and they want to have the freedom to do it.
Making money.
Well, that may come, may or may not. There are never any guarantees, but both of these summits, the presenters did have apparently a good income. And that's another thing, is that the person that hosted the first summit, I believe she's a book coach. She may do some writing on the side. So she's augmenting her writing with book coaching and vice versa. Whereas the host that presented the second summit is a romance author. And she began hosting these summits because she learned that there were a lot of things that she didn't know. So she started talking to other people, and she was thinking that if she didn't know them, then other people probably needed to learn them too. So they bring together a lot of like-minded people and provide the information, kind of the things that they've learned through trial and error. So, part of our branding, I kind of jokingly said this, but I think really what we're doing is we're making mistakes so you don't have to. And that's kind of the point of our podcast, is we talk about, we're not getting really far. We're not doing as well financially as we'd like to. Why? What are we doing that isn't working? And we're trying to work through that to get to a point where maybe we'll make a little bit of money. We do have retirement income, but we also hope to augment that because there are other things we'd like to do, like travel more. We need to work on our house. Inevitably there will be health issues that we'll have to address. We'll need the finances for that. So we aren't in a position where, in the Thriving Authors Summit, where a lot of those younger families, they have, thinking about kids going to college, they have to pay for their sports and their outside activities and their school. And, there are so many expenses, and for some of them, that is their sole source of income. So they're really hustle. And that part of it doesn't resonate with me, because at this point in our lives, we aren't so much about the hustle as we are about doing something we love. We want to augment our income if we can. Hopefully we can, because it would be nice to get a few things done. But we're kind of doing it for the love of what we do.
Yeah. And we made the decision a while back that 2024 was going to be, 100% push, the 100% push on 2 more books, our book writing and book publishing company. And then when 2025 comes around, we would do an honest assessment of what we have and see what's working and see what isn't working, and make the decision whether to continue 2 more books or put it more in the background. But and when that time comes, when that assessment comes, we want to be able to say that we threw everything in the kitchen sink, or we threw everything against the wall, and we saw what stuck and we saw what didn't stuck, and we have no shame in pursuing either course, continuing the course, or putting 2 more books more in the background as we seek other means of income. Because you're right, there's the financial reality that we have issues that we need to resolve, and our current retirement income meets our needs, but it just meets our needs.
Right. And like I said, I know we both have things that we structurally need to do to the house, obviously, but there are also some aesthetic things that I would like to do at some point. It is an 80-something-year-old house, beautiful house, but it, with time come issues, and we need to resolve some of those things. We are getting older. We're going to have more and more health issues cropping up, as we all do. Doesn't necessarily always come with aging. Unfortunately, some people deal with chronic health problems. So, it's something to keep in mind, because health care is costly, and we would like to augment our insurance, which is
we've kind of gone down the bummer road with the podcast, which isn't the point, but it's a reality check. It's a reality check, and it's through these classes, it's through these courses that we educate ourselves, and we try to get out of the doldrums, because we're kind of in the doldrums now, or the horse latitudes, or whatever you want to call it, if you're into that kind of literary stuff. We're trying to push, we're trying to push our boat out of these calm winds and
Right.
get out into the big waves.
Yes.
Is there anything real quick? Like I see you're looking at the summary. Is there anything?
I just wanted to make sure I hadn't forgotten anything.
I think that
I think I
you
kind of covered it. I basically did bullet points, as JT said, so that he would have some idea of what I would be talking about and we wouldn't step on each other, which we have a tendency to do because
really?
we have a lot of common thought processes.
I think you got it, though. I think you got it. I think, though, these 2 points are the most important part, just in general.
That there were common themes between the 2 summits, whereas, the one, as I mentioned, was geared more toward the younger woman entrepreneur who was really hustling to make an income, whereas the second one was more of a variety of authors, and they...
and one of the, as you said, the first audience is probably working around external obligations, such as real life.
Yeah.
And but I think that the second bullet point here needs to be said really out loud.
So the second one was geared more toward our internal struggles. So this is something that I've noticed as a retiree. I was imagining that, just sitting down and writing and having the freedom to do that with my time, but there are still internal struggles that we face versus the external ones, because we also did that. The internal struggles are real too, where you get to the point in your book and you don't know where to go, or if you feel like a character isn't working well. One of the presenters talked about having to throw away 30,000 words, which is the length of one of JT's current novellas.
Yeah, I threw away 2,500 words the other day, and that just about caused me heart failure.
Well, she realized that the character that she had been writing was basically just providing exposition, giving background on the story. And very nice character. She really hated getting rid of this character, but it was bogging down the story because you don't want to explain what's happening. You want to experience what's happening. The whole show versus tell. And this character was basically just telling what was going on in the story. Someone would say, oh, well, and then this character would go, well, this is because blah, blah, blah. And so she had to sit down, and she said she had been working on this book for possibly a decade. She'd gone away and come back to it and saw this character with new eyes and said, oh no, I'm sorry. And then, as anybody who has written knows, 30,000 words is a lot. And you sit down and... So she was giving advice on how to avoid doing that by plotting, making sure that your plot... See, and this is one of the things that I really learned from this is I did an outline for my book based on the historic events. I have to flip the outline to have more of the characters, they're reacting to the historic events. How are they reacting to it? Do those reactions make sense? Is it even necessary for them to react to that particular event? Because it's not a historic textbook. It's a story that's taking place in a historic time. So, kind of reframing, internalizing those lessons and helping to hopefully chip away at some of the internal struggles that we face when we're trying to get the words on the page.
It's sort of like when you go to a historical movie, and people get upset, because somebody's uniform are wrong or something like that, and people have to be reminded that those kind of movies are not documentaries.
No,
they're not documentaries. They're works of fiction adapted from historical events.
Right.
No, but the point that I was trying to make is these 4 words.
Oh, imposter syndrome. Working around imposter syndrome. Everybody feels imposter syndrome at some point in their lives. It doesn't matter what you do, whether you're a writer or not. We all sometimes feel like, especially in my case, I've noticed if someone compliments me on the work I've done, I kind of feel like, well, I didn't really earn that compliment. I just kind of did it and it worked out okay. And I think that happens to writers a lot, that we write something, and in the summit, they were talking about this makes it difficult for you to promote your own work. Because if you're having imposter syndrome, you feel like you've done the best job you can to get this out there. And you've seen successful other authors, you probably have an author that you really fan, you're a very passionate fan of their work, and you want to be like them, and you feel like you're a pale shadow of that person. But even that person has imposter syndrome sometimes. Someone said at one of the summits, if you don't have imposter syndrome, you have issues, because then you're not thinking about, well, how could I have made it better? Because nothing is ever perfect. So we all face imposter syndrome, and working around that, one of the sessions, someone started discussing writer's block. And they said that, we kind of throw around writer's block a lot. Oh, I have writer's block. I can't get anything done today. Writer's block is more of it's an intense psychological problem where you cannot sit down and write. Whereas, sometimes it's just like, oh, I don't feel like it. I have writer's block today. That's a totally different situation. That may be more imposter syndrome, where you're feeling like, I don't think the story's going very well.
It's hard too, because you just, it's like, and that's probably why, for example, why Serving Salvation turned into 3 books, and why the prequel turned into 3 novellas, because there were times when I said, oh man, I just do not want to do that scene, so I started writing something else. It's like, oh, okay, but that kind of thing.
And that makes me think of George Lucas, because the original Star Wars trilogy, he had the 3 stories.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he had them as fleshed out as he may have presented them, because, obviously this whole Luke and Leia thing, and there's a lot going on there. People know. But it turned into this entire expansive universe because people basically took it over and ran with it. And I wonder sometimes if maybe he was feeling some imposter syndrome, because he was hanging out with people like Martin Scorsese, and
talk about a crowd.
They had a whole group of people who went to school together at the same time, and it's hard not to feel imposter syndrome when you're around people who are so driven, so intelligent. They have such a clear focus on what they're doing, and that's really kind of my imposter syndrome, I think, is I am not an MFA. I don't have an MFA. I didn't go to college to become a writer. I write because I love reading. I love telling stories. I like characters. And, even though I'm not trained, and this is something I felt in my previous job a lot too, because I was not trained in the field where I was promoted. I was promoted into a professional field that I was not trained for. And imposter syndrome was every day. So when I became the senior person in my office, I was like, don't call me that. I'm only senior because I've been here the longest. But with that comes, you've had the experience. So when you're feeling imposter syndrome as a writer, just remember, you have been writing, you have been honing your craft. Every time you write something, maybe the last book wasn't as good as you hoped, but the next book will be better. Just keep putting it out there. So that was one of the biggest takeaways, I think, from the second summit, was we all feel it. Don't worry about it. I mean, obviously you're going to worry about it when you're in it, but you have to move past it.
Yeah, and we did a whole podcast on writers, imposter syndrome. And it always comes up in social media that I follow, and it's what I basically reply to is, hey, if you've written, you're not being an imposter. If you publish, you're certainly not being an imposter. So focus on accomplishments, not that stinking rock that you have to keep pushing up the hill.
And the other aspect of that, you mentioned the publishing aspect. There was, for the longest time, a stigma about self-publishing, and a lot of it was considered more of a vanity press type of situation where you're paying people to publish your book for you. And I think a lot of independent authors, self-published authors, still feel imposter syndrome because they're not published by one of the big houses. They haven't gotten through the gatekeepers, and they don't feel like maybe they earned publication. Mm-hmm. I think that does factor a lot into independent publishing. Mm-hmm. So we have to be careful not to let us stifle us what we're doing too much, because it's important. Everybody keeps saying at all of the summits I've gone to, your story may be similar to someone else's, but it's still your story.
Yes.
Somebody's going to resonate with your story, even if it's just one person. And it's worth it just for that, because someone needs your story.
Yeah, as we keep saying, how many zombie stories are there? How many vampire stories are there? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, so I'm going to put you on the spot here. I'm going to bring the thing back up. What is the most important lesson? One lesson, very quickly, and you can only use one sentence in both of these. What is the most important lesson that you learned from the Thriving Authors Summit? Ding, 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 ding.
I'm trying to narrow it down. I think my biggest takeaway from that one was learning not to compare myself to others.
Okay.
That's the biggest lesson.
Okay. And the other one from the Writing Romance Mastery Summit.
That one is that even though my skill set may be dated, the skills can always be updated. So just because I'm no longer up to date doesn't mean I still can't produce works that will resonate with people now.
Okay. Good summaries. Good summaries.
I know that's kind of a run-on sentence.
That's a run-on sentence, but but you specialize in that.
Well, we've had that discussion too.
Okay. So there's going to be more summits in the future. We're going to be learning more things. I'll try to attend, but right now I'm more in writing mode than anything else. So thank you. Good stuff. And
actually, I have a question for you.
Okay.
So of some of the things that I have talked to you about from these summits, what has resonated with you?
I like the fact that you have so much energy after you watch these things. It's like, hey, it's like we are not alone. Mm-hmm. We are not. You're seeing that we are not alone. That
right.
There's lots of people struggling, but I'm glad to see that you're energized by the solutions.
Yes.
By the solutions, and I look forward to implementing as many of those solutions as we reasonably can, because as you said, it's not going to be a perfect fit.
Never is.
I'm looking forward to using that energy in good ways.
Well, and the next challenge will be maintaining that energy, because I have not signed up for any more summits for a while. I think 2 weeks for now. We need to let things gel, but we are working on rebranding ourselves. Yep. We have redone the About You page on our website. So if you've seen that previously, please go look at it again. Okay, and that's actually a good way to end this, because we are way past what our usual time is. We're actually working on an hour. But we are in the progress. We are in the process of updating our website. So not only is the About Us page is updated, but also our book page is long overdue. Oh my God, it was so badly out of date. Our book page is seriously updated. I cut out so much text, and so if you want, it leads you to the books. It gives you the links to the books, and you can learn more about the books by clicking on the links. So check out our About Us page, and check out our book page, and you will see vast improvement on that. And like I said, this is we're getting close to the end here, because we've covered so much. We covered so much. It was a lot of information for a 2-week period, but I feel like it has helped. A lot of the sessions were very similar, and it helped reinforce some areas, whereas it told me which areas that maybe we don't need to focus on. Yep. Okay. So good stuff. Good stuff. So next week is going to be a Serving Salvation focused, because that is actually the weekend before the release. Yes. That's going to be exciting. We haven't made any other big plans like free books or anything like that. Excuse me, I have a pretty good frog in my throat. Well, actually, if you want to clear your throat for a second, the other thing I will mention briefly is that I have been a member of a Facebook group for a while that I've been lurking in the background and haven't really done anything with. But recently they did a book giveaway day, and I managed to jump on that at the right time. I guess they do this annually. Jumped in there. So we did give a copy of From Tundra to Tiara away. Our winner has received it, hopefully. It was delivered. Yeah. So it was exciting to be able to do that, and we started playing around with some cheap swag that we maybe like doing bookmarks and hello New Jersey. That's a different story. Okay. But we are definitely looking at what we're doing. We're trying to improve what we're doing. We've learned that networking is going to be very important. So we're trying to really improve our products, improve ourselves, and hopefully we can improve the information we're providing to you. So if you've hung out this long, thank you. Thank you, and dear God, don't you have a life? Okay, so we covered a lot today. We talked about next week, and so we're going to go ahead and sign off and get to work on posting this to social media. So again, sitting over there is CC. And over there is JT. And home means Nevada. Home means Nevada. Woo, yeah, baby. Home means Nevada. Oh, go Wolfpack. Go Wolfpack. Yeah, we're both pack. Back the pack. Okay, so talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye-bye.